Yeah, and we've seen these decks match up a couple of times earlier. I think when we saw it yesterday, the key card out of Mardu Green was Siege Rhino in the matchup. If we started playing value Magic, of course Siege Rhino is always down for that kind of gameplay.
Yep, and if Red-Black Dragons is winning, it's off the Storm's Fury. It's all legendary dragons all the time.
I mean, 4 copies of Kolaghan the Storm's Fury is so many. Thunderwave players are going to trade some land drops on the first 2 turns. That is one of the things about these I guess tier 1 decks right now is that they don't have much action on the first few turns of the game.
No, they'll let you sit there and cast your 2/3s, and then they'll let you know when it's time for them to play 4/5s.
Interestingly enough, and this is something which actually, if you want to look at the metagame breakdown, it's surprising to me. How many only 2 copies of Atarka Red in the entirety of day 2? That's the deck that won last week.
Right?
Yeah, that's 2 out of 68.
Yeah, I guess, I wonder how many people were playing it on day 1.
That is...
I'd be interesting to hear the conversion rate. Is it just, maybe 2 people showed up?
That's
I don't know.
Less than 3% of the day 2 field.
Yeah, that's incredible.
The first play of the game will be a Read the Bones from Boris Pan. He kind of gasses up. 4 mana is when these decks start to play. At the early drops, they have kill spells, and in a lot of ways, their kill spells are the most efficient cards in the matchup. Cards like Roast, Grasp of Darkness. Actually, no Grasp of Darkness in Boris Pan's deck, not picking up the new card.
Oh, wow. Both players are on Fiery Impulse. Good chance that card is not very effective against either player.
First creature on the board will be Jessy's. It's a copy of Hordling Outburst.
Boris does have some Soulfire Grandmasters hanging out in his list. That's a bit unusual for these Mardu Green decks.
Well, they aren't always able to utilize that. Now, when you look at this, the removal that Boris is packing, a lot of it is the same kind of removal you'd expect out of Jeskai Black. So I could see Soulfire Grandmaster doing work.
Yeah, rebuying Crackling Doom is definitely a good place to be. The 4 Fiery Impulse will matter a lot in some matchups. Gaining life every time you cast it as well. The 2 Roast, of course, great.
Well, turn 4 means it's game time for Boris. Could be a Siege Rhino, but instead it's going to be a Kalitas Trader of Get. The 3/4 lifelink can do a great job of holding off these goblins if it can survive through the turn.
It'll survive a Draconic Roar anyway, but...
not a Fiery Impulse and a Draconic Roar. So Roar deals 3 upstairs to Boris. So Impulse finishes off the Kalitas, and then the Goblins swing in, and he has Boris down to 10.
And Draconic Roar plus a Goblin token is enough to trade for a Kalitas, but throwing away the Goblin token and the lifelink on the Kalitas makes it a not very profitable swing.
Yeah, it's that lifelink that made him use the Fiery Impulse that way. Also maybe an admission that Fiery Impulse is a pretty dead card in this matchup.
Gotta use it somewhere. Can't go to the face.
I mean, you look at Boris here, he uses his own Fiery Impulse on a Goblin token.
Yeah.
That's a third of a card. So a swing from Jessy. 1 Goblin will get Impulse. Another one will get Kolaghan's Commanded. Jessy will discard. Oh, no, actually, he'll raise dead the Kalitas.
I like that quite a bit. The follow-up Thunderbreak Regent makes it look a little bit worse.
Well, we have seen this 1-2 punch out of Thunderbreak Regent that, and this is the scariest part of Red-Black Dragons. They play Regent, they dash Kolaghan, and they win immediately.
Yeah, 9 life is not going to be enough in that situation. Have the Kalitas back in our hand, but just doesn't matter on this board.
Yeah,
he has Crackling Doom and Abzan Charm, though. I assume that Crackling Doom is going to be the weapon of choice for taking down Thunderbreak Regent.
Well, I think it has to be.
Taking 3 damage is not a great proposition.
Ideally, he does something like Kalitas plus Murderous Cut would maybe be okay here.
Yeah, that one is problematic against a lot of the cards in Jessy's deck, though. He can do a lot of damage out of nowhere in the air. The Kalitas can crack back for lifelink, but I think you really just have to answer that Thunderbreak now, and it has to be,
Yeah. Crackling Doom's a great answer for Thunderbreak, too, and it avoids that trigger.
Keeping the life total at 9, and if you can hopefully find a way to go above 9, that's what you have to be focusing on right now.
So the Thunderbreak and Goblin will swing in. Crackling Doom will take care of the Regent, but Jessy has another 4/4. He'll replace it as he puts Boris down to 8. Draw for Boris was another copy of Kalitas. But here is the late game for Mardu Green that we've come to expect. It's Goblin Dark Dwellers getting back a free cast of Crackling Doom to take care of the second Thunderbreak Regent.
It's practically a combo deck.
That's the best Dark Dwellers we've seen this weekend right there. That turn really showcases the power of this card.
Yeah, Necrotal plus Shock. Again, the removal spell does not target the Regent, so taking no damage off of that. Have a 4/4 to block that Goblin token as well.
And he has Jessy down to 13, so Boris climbing back into this game.
Yeah, and Jessy only has 2 cards in hand.
Yeah, Boris has an Obs on Charm. Jessy would have to deal 8 this turn. And that may be hard to do. Here's Hordling Outburst, 3 more Goblins. That'll be a start. A 7th land and a pass. Just 1 card left in Hefner's hand. And now we're back to Boris. Here's a copy of Kalidas. He still has Obs on Charm mana up.
The unfortunate thing about having Kalidas here is that the removal spells left in his hand are Abzan charms, so those won't enable him to make zombies, but kind of minor at this point.
Yeah, he's almost just more interested in the lifelink, but I agree. It would be great that if he could be getting 2/2s off Jesse's cards.
Mm-hmm. It also enables you to sacrifice the zombie to Kalidas and gain 2 more life per swing.
Jessy draws, and he'll just pass. Roast was the pickup for Boris.
That's another card that's not going to be very good in this matchup.
Here's Kalidas. No blocks from Hefner, so he's down to 10. Boris up to 11. And
Hefner had the ability to throw 4 Goblins in front of Kalidas, but there's just no way that works out.
Yeah, Obs on Charm, a lot of cards would blow out that block. And Jessy, just drawing more lands, is going to go ahead and pack it in. So game 1, over to Boris Pan. A comeback there from Mardu Green, really based off the strength of Goblin Dark Dwellers.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jesse's draw just didn't come together. You know, I was specifically saying that Kolagon, the Storm's Fury, is the way that the Red-Black Dragons deck wins games. Didn't show up to play.
As we look at the sideboards, we'll start over with Jessy Hefner. He has 3 Transgress the Mind, 2 Flaying Tendrils, 2 Roast, 2 Outpost Siege, a Kalidas Trader of Get, another Goblin Dark Dwellers, a Sarkhan, a Kolagon's Command, a Duress, and a Read the Bones. It seems like Duresses are just coming in every matchup right about now. Yeah,
there's a reason that people are main decking a couple, 3 copies of this card. It's just very impactful. There's a lot of good spells in Standard right now. More exciting for Hefner is the Transgress the Mind. They can find the Siege Rhinos and the Dark Dwellers, and they also exile the card that they find in case you're just taking a Mardu Charm that the Dark Dwellers could possibly flash back.
Yeah, we even saw Kolagon's Command rebuying Kalidas that game. Exiling certainly would stop that sort of interaction.
Yep.
How do we feel about cards like Roast in this matchup against Mardu Green? He's a Siege Rhino deck, he's a Kalidas deck, it seems decent.
Yeah, Siege Rhino is the card that's going to kill you in this matchup, so not bringing in the Roast seems a little foolish. There's a lot of positions where it's not going to be very good, but in the games where you're falling behind, it is what will bring you back to parity.
All right, over on Boris' side, he has Anafenza's Chandra Flamecaller, a Duress of his own, 3 Hallowed Moonlight, an Obnixilus Reignited, 2 Radiant Flames, 2 Transgress the Minds, an Utter End, and a Virulent Plague. So we have seen some players in this matchup go toward token hate, and we actually saw that yesterday. Cards like Virulent Plague, possibly Radiant Flames. How do you feel about that kind of strategy going in this?
Not in love with it. I don't think that you're realistically losing to the token plan. The token plan's only made good by the addition of Kolagon. You can come back from the tokens with just having a Kalidas in play. The lifelink kind of takes care of that, and really any creature you put in play. Boris also has access to Soulfire Grandmaster, which is just going to invalidate Goblin tokens all around. So focusing on those Goblins seems a little short-sighted. I think what he really wants here, those Transgress the Minds and that Utter End, stuff that deals with the big dragons.
All right, players are going to get ready for game number 2 here. At 9 and 2, each of them are looking for a pair of wins to propel them into the top 8. We are going to go ahead and talk to you about our next season. So season 2 here on the SCG Tour. That's after our Columbus Invitational in April. We're going to make our way back toward the south. So we go to Milwaukee, we go to Indianapolis, Atlanta, Orlando, and Dallas. So we're turning back to Texas for Modern. And then we'll go to Worcester, back here in Columbus, Baltimore. We have our August regionals, and then Syracuse before we build up to the Season 2 Championship, which is in New Jersey for the Invitational weekend in mid-August. Once again, plenty of Modern, Standard, and Legacy Opens all around the country. And this matchup between the two decks, I have to say, Mardu Green to me looks like a contender. I feel like Red Black Dragons still has something to prove.
Yeah, absolutely. And one evolution that we've seen from a lot of decks in Standard, we see a deck that's kind of lacking. When we see a finally good version of the build, usually the answer is just adding another color. Off the top of my head, I can't think of what color we would add to Red Black Dragons or even what that direction would be, but the weakness seems to be in the early game and relying so heavily on Kolagon.
Yeah, when you're watching them, how often you just look at it and you feel, man, I sure hope he has a Kolagon here. It's going to be great if he has Kolagon. Like that last game, he had a Thunder Breaking plan. I thought, boy, if he has Kolagon next turn, he's going to get him.
Or at the end of the game where he had one Goblin token, cast Hordling Outburst. If he had the Kolagon in the next turn.
Yeah, he could have won from there.
Yeah, I believe that was lethal.
I mean, I guess it's why they play 4, even though it's legendary and never dies.
Yep.
And if you have 2 Kolagons in your hand, it's very much... It feels a lot like you mulligan to 6.
That's the other thing about it, though, is at the end of the game, Boris just had Abzan Charm mana up. He had the card in his hand, so the Kolagon wasn't going to do it. That's why you need the 4. But that's also why I just want more punch in this deck.
You almost wish you had a way to find the Kolagon, or a card that could do an impression of it. You know?
I am not advocating Sarkhan's Triumph, if that's what we're getting at.
You can search for a dragon card. We're not doing that much on turn 3.
Yeah.
We can. Yeah, Sarkhan can triumph.
Just quit messing around with these Stopter Engineers and these Hordling Outbursts. Just draw the cards that matter.
Just say, I really like this Thunder Break into Kolagon plan. We're gonna spend turns 1, 2, and 3 making sure it happens.
I'm gonna put a Diabolic Tutor in your hand as a Red Black Dragons deck. Are you ever not searching for Kolagon? Maybe we should. Maybe it's just
great. We can have it for one less. Game 2 we're underway here. Jessy starting off on a pair of lands. Boris as well. He might have the Soulfire Grandmaster, though. The rare 2-drop in this matchup.
I believe it's a Mythic.
Oh. Yes, it is. My bad. The mythical 2-drop. The Grandmaster of Soulfire.
He will become the Grandmaster of the Graveyard.
It is uncommon that he is killed by this Grasp of Darkness. No.
It used to be common.
Uncommon. Hey, that's not. There we go. Thank you.
It used to be more common.
Things don't get grasped nowadays as often as they used to. It's a much less common occurrence. Back on Mirrodin, it was just all over the place.
Every day.
Hordling Outburst will be the turn 3 play from Jessy.
So, imagine on this turn we have cast Sarkhan's Triumph.
All right.
There's a guaranteed Kolagon the Storm's Fury in our hand.
All right, so here's Transgress the Mind. I feel like Boris would take it.
Yes, okay.
All right.
Maybe we shouldn't play this.
I feel like the score is Hordling Outburst 1, Sarkhan's Triumph 0.
All right. You've convinced me.
Wait, no, maybe not.
We'd have 2 copies.
We'd have 2 copies. They take our Thunder Break, and then we'd just have 2 Kolagons. It'd be really bad. We may need to rethink this build of Red Black Dragons we're coming up with.
Yeah, it was worth thinking about. We have figured it out.
Transgress takes care of the Thunderbreak region. Now, a lot of punch in Jesse's hand. He actually had a Peon Kiran Nalar as well as Kolagon.
And that's the thing about these hands that have no additional lands. Plenty of room for good spells. Found a land at the top.
Found land. Well, he didn't play Flamewake Phoenix, so there was some inkling that maybe he had a 4th land.
Yeah.
Pia and Kiran is the play, making 2 more Thopters. We talked about how much we like Kolagon the Storm's Fury. How about putting 6 creatures into play on 2 turns and then dashing Kolagon? I could play that deck.
I can get behind that. If only if there was a way to make dragon tokens at a cheap rate.
If only there's a way to cast Radiant Flames from Boris Pan, and that is exactly what he's going to do. Radiant Flames on 3 wipes Jesse's entire board.
Yeah, that was a good exchange.
Wow, and I mean, you almost felt there that if Boris didn't have Radiant Flames, that the game was over on the spot.
Yeah, Jessy needs to find the land for the Kolagon, but he's already way ahead without it.
Instead, Jessy, on an empty board, plays a Hangerback Walker on 2 and passes.
Hangerback Walker's a fine draw. Finding the land for the Kolagon actually much less relevant now that the board is clear. The Hangerback presents a threat and a way to rebuild.
Here's Flamewake Phoenix. It'll swing in for 2. Hangerback's going to hang back to pump on the end step. See, Hangerback Walker actually tells you how to play the card.
Yeah, that seems like outside advice.
Yeah, you're supposed to hang her back and pump.
They might need to issue a card name errata on that.
Thopter Walker. There you go. Kolaghan's Command is going to deal 2 damage to Flamewake Phoenix and destroy target artifact on the Hangerback Walker.
Well, looks like a discard card, actually.
Just a discard? Okay. Suppose you never want to blow up Hangerback Walker. It's just...
No.
I don't know. We've seen a lot of Walkers this weekend. I don't know that we've seen any of them crack into Thopters.
I was actually just checking Jesse's list to see if he had his own Kolaghan's Command to see
to
if he
do
could
it
just like
himself?
blow up his own. Yeah, it seems like a good thing to do in this deck. He activated end step, command to blow it up, make a bunch of Thopters, cast Kolaghan himself, crack for 1 million.
So Jessy discarded the Kolaghan the Storm's Fury to the Kolaghan's Command. Kind of a flavor fail there. But
Yeah.
Transgress the Mind takes care of Jesse's last card, was a copy of Murderous Cut, and now we just have a 3/3 Hangerback attacking in as both players start playing in top deck. I do believe Boris, right now you see him on 5 lands, he does have a Chandra Flamecaller for whenever he gets to that 6th mana.
That's going to be pretty good, especially with the Hangerback stopping at 3 to attack here.
Because it can go in -3 and then -1. You're still trading the entire Chandra for the Hangerback.
Not even that. The Chandra just comes in, makes 2 tokens, and attacks you. The Hangerback's not big enough to kill a Chandra in one swing.
So Chandra's a 12-point burn spell?
Yeah, why not?
Well, he said 18, but yeah, I take your point. So here's Chandra. She'll plus up, yeah. No interest in trying to kill that Hangerback Walker.
What Boris really wants to do here is draw an Abzan Charm. That's how he wants to deal with this Walker.
There's the 2/3/1 elementals. They swing in. Jessy is down to 12.
Yeah, the -3 on the Chandra just leaves the tokens around to kill it. Doesn't really get you anywhere.
Kind of hope we see a 0 on the Chandra. She gets hit down to 2 by Hangerback Walker, and here's Thunderbreak Regent.
That's a good follow-up.
Don't think we're going to see a 0. Double Crackling Doom for Boris.
I think we might see 2 Crackling Dooms and a -1. Do we have the proper mana is the question.
This could be lethal. Here's a Crackling Doom.
Yep, everything
Yes,
looks like it
we
lines
do.
up.
Well, you got to make sure you do it in the right order. If you cast this other Crackling Doom first. All right, so here's a swing of 2 elementals. It'll put Jessy down to 4.
Okay, I actually like this a lot better than Crackling Doom and sweeping the team. That Hangerback Walker is not applying nearly enough pressure. Now we can just protect the Chandra from dying on this turn with the Crackling Doom.
Yeah, he's swinging with Hangerback. I have to imagine Boris is going to Crackling Doom here. He doesn't want to lose that Chandra.
No. The Crackling Doom is halfway to lethal already.
There's 2 damage and blows up the Hangerback Walker. Here's a bunch of Thopters. Fortunately, there's a very clean answer to them in play as Jesse's down to 2.
I'm pretty sure... The lines for Boros here are sweep the Thopters, attack with Shambling Vent, or just make 2 3/1s and attack with Shambling Vent. And Crackling Doom is just lethal there.
So Boris Pan 2-0 with Mardu Green. He'll defeat Jessy Hefner and move on to 10-2.
Yeah, not a very impressive showing for Red-Black Dragons here. And that exactly what happened there, a reason that we saw Boris gain such an advantage, is just what I was talking about, the weakness of Red-Black Dragons. The evolution of that deck is probably to add another color. Boris has 4 colors.
Right. One of the questions is, if you're playing Red-Black Dragons, why is it not Jund Dragons? Or, I mean, maybe there's no reason for it. But
And the similarities between Red-Black Dragons and Mardu Green they're pretty well defined. There's a lot of overlap in these decks, and then one of the decks just has Siege Rhino and Crackling Doom.
Yeah, they both are building up to cards like Dark Dwellers or Kolaghan. They're these removal-heavy red-black decks that then build up to, they don't do anything on the early turns, they build up to things in the late game. Yeah, and Mardu Green just seems like it's better at doing it right now.
And the 4-color mana base is